Welcome, everyone. So, start before you're ready. It has to do with work. It has to do with getting things done. And there's a writer, Stephen Pressfield, who's written a book called Do the Work. It was of interest to me because, as some of you know, I am a serial creative artist. I get started on one project, and it is the most important thing on the planet. And I'll go into the thrift shop somewhere and I'll see something, and boom, it takes me on a whole different direction. A friend of mine gave me an article about creativity, and the artist says something like, well, some people are out looking and doing something and they get distracted and it's, ooh, there's a bunny. I'm one of those people. Oh, look at that. And I just follow it. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing now. I used to feel guilty about it. It's the way I am, but I do need to focus. Hence reading this book, this little book called Do the Work. In this book, the author has a theory that when a creative project, creative idea comes into the world, there's an equal and opposite force that follows it, and that is called resistance. That's the part of that project, that new thing that you're doing, and there's this sucking feeling of, am I really going to get this done? This is really hard to do. So there's these equal and opposite reaction. He calls it resistance, and he refers to it as like a dragon that we have to slay. And this dragon stays with us no matter where we are. You know, you can go on a trip to Hawaii, be sitting on the beach, but that resistance is with you all the time. So to describe, to consolidate his ideas about how to thwart that, he has three precepts. One is stay stupid. Not a problem for me, but really what he means is don't overthink what you're thinking about doing. Act. Yeah, don't be stupid. Do prepare, you know. Don't parachute without training and all that good stuff, but do it. Trust the soup. Trust the soup. That means you put the ingredients together, you do your preparation, and the soup will become what it's going to become. So you have to leave a little bit of your ego, if not most of your ego, out of that process. Leave that control alone because it's going to be soup. Let it go. Let it simmer. And the last of those is start before you're ready. That is commit. And that act of commitment begets courage. And courage begets more courage. So those of us who are procrastinators and planners like myself see folks who start before we're ready and think that they're not prepared. But they're just a little bit different in gathering that courage to get the project done. So in 1871, converting what had been a Sunday school into a church, a full-blown church, was a pretty big commitment and a pretty big deal. In the first reading, we hear about financial issues that were going on. Even before that 1905 incident, in 1893, there was a depression going on, but in 1893, the pastor had not been paid for 7 years.
Whoa.
Well, and there was some friction, as you might think. And in the history, the 125-year history, it does say that eventually the church paid the back salary, but it was really a tough situation. That history, by the way, is a really neat booklet that I plan to scan it and see how it comes out. We'll put it on the webpage. The photographs may not be the greatest, but they're all we have. So I'm going to scan that. In fact, let's see. Yeah, I have it. If anybody hasn't seen that and they want to thumb through it, I've got a copy. So the ladies were in 1905 said, hey, we got to get a little bit more business oriented, and by the way, we want the men to be a little more involved in the church. Well, they did that, and by the 40s and the 50s, there was, of course, the building committee who was responsible for moving this building here, this part of the old church. I was thumbing through the history and the photograph of the 41 men on that committee. 41. There seemed to be a familiar guy in that photograph. Ev, is that familiar? Second row, third from the right. I think he was in that photo. Anyway, so these things were going on. A lot of work was happening at the church. And in the late 1880s, there was a group of young women in the church called the Busy Bees. The Busy Bees managed to raise, it says in the history, $400 for the church bell that we have. Now, I went on Google to the inflation calculator, and $400 in the 1880s would be like $10,000 right now. That's a lot of money. But without other information, all we can figure is that those Busy Bees really had some good connections. And they managed to get that bell put in the belfry at the church. Now granted, at that time, this was the upper part of the church. There was a floor underneath, and there was a big columnar structure on this side. And at the top of that was the belfry, and the bell was in that top part. So 1880s, we get the bell, and the bell was rung as a call to worship. It was also rung at noontime as a reminder for people to pray for soldiers in war. Well, the bell said, "We're here, come and join us." And I'm sure it could be heard for quite some distance at that time. Well, in 1921, the wind started shaking that belfry, and they decided that it was a hazard. So they had to take the bell down. So in 1921, the bell got taken down, and it was moved to Jake Yenny's farm, where it sat, or nearby, for 40 years until it came, along with the building, or after the building, it came to this church right here. In 2003, Kathy and I heard that bell, and it's responsible for us being at that church. When I thought about that and creating this sermon, I came over to church a couple days ago, and I started looking closely at that bell. I thought, wow, this is really, this is an incredible thing that we have here sitting right outside. And I took some photos of it, and I got closer and closer, and I kind of ducked over into the plants, and I went underneath it, and I took pictures from different angles. Ooh, a bunny. So I had some fun with that, and this one picture I had from underneath I thought was quite interesting, and I decided to draw that clapboard. I made some drawings for everyone. I think we have enough, actually. If you could pass those out. And Rudy, thank you. So here's a color one. You're getting black and white because I ran out of time. It's the clapper, and then there's this part of the rim, or the sound bow as it's called. I did these 10 color ones that I did. These are going to go to the choir because they bring color to us every week. So the bell puts energy out, and that energy comes from that little clanging thing, that clapper that's under the bell. And it looks like there's a piece of it that's broken off, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was made that way or if there's a broken piece. But these are for you to think about the bell and what it does. And the bell, like I said, brought Kathy and I to this church when we were thinking about a church home, finding a church. We realized that we could hear the church bell every Sunday morning at 10:30. Why don't we come here first? David knew Reverend McCracken from doing a little computer work for him. We came here, as many of you know, it was a new member Sunday. We came to the new member soup and bread, and we have never left. We never went anywhere else. So I want to shift gears for a moment in my story about work and get into community and service. And it will come together. It will ring true at the end, so hang with me. In 2010, there were four college students, Chris, Zach, Sean, and Ryan. Two of them were economics majors, and they were interested in microloans, they were interested in poverty, and they were really interested in how it's possible for people to live on $1 a day. So they went to Guatemala. They went to a little village called Peña Blanca with 600 people of Mayan descent. They decided that they would spend 2 months living in that village on $1 a day per person for each of them. Their goal was not to live on $1 a day, but understand what it means to live on $1 a day. In order to make this experience as real as they could, they decided to mimic as much as they could the randomness of income of those people in that village, because they never quite knew when they were going to get paid from their labors. They never knew how many people might buy their few products that they were able to sell. So to do that, they took the amount for the four of them, $1 a day for 2 months. They divided it up into random allocations. So they put numbers on a little piece of paper from 0, I think, to the maximum was probably 9. There were a few numbers of 9. They put them in a hat, and they shook up the hat, and every morning they pulled a number out of that hat, and that was their allocation of dollars per day. So they went to the market twice a week. They had to pay to get in the truck to ride to the market and back. They would charge up their batteries. Two of the guys, I forgot to say, were the video people. So they were documenting their work. They were basically doing research, and I think they figured that they would go down, do some volunteer labor, interview the locals, and then leave and, write up their work. Well, as they got there, they found they were eating rice, beans, and bananas. That's all they could afford. And what they found was that the amount of rice, beans, and bananas that they could afford was not enough calories to support them. Rice and beans, and they could not buy enough rice and beans to support themselves. So they started losing weight. They got so hungry that many of them were getting lightheaded. One guy fell from not having enough to eat. At this point, they integrated themselves. They had met people, and they integrated themselves a little more into the community. And the community members helped them in several ways. They helped them bargain better at the market. So they were getting a little more rice, a little more beans, a few more bananas for their money. They also explained to them to buy lard to add to the beans and the rice. And it was calories that they truly, truly needed